Hi, my name's Ian Joseph and I'm with Miller Lane Property Management. We service King, Snohomish, and Pierce County. Today I'm with Jim Henderson of Landlord Solutions, and we're going to be discussing 5 tenant screening tips to protect your rental property. The purpose of screening is to know who you're renting to. It's the first and most important step in minimizing your risk. Tip number 1, screen your tenant.
Ian, screening your tenant is so important because it allows you as the landlord to know who you're renting to. As you said before, you minimize your risk. You want to be sure that the person you're renting to has the ability to pay rent and they have been a good tenant in the past.
Tips number 2 and 3 are really sort of the meat of this video. It would be the difference between an instant screening, an online verification, and an in-depth screening like Landlord Solution does, coupled with staying compliant in City of Seattle and state and federal laws.
That's right. If you're using an online company that you don't have a relationship with, you just go on the internet, you search for a background check, and you're paying a minimal charge for it. They're not ensuring that they're giving you good data that you can use to make a housing decision. Currently, right now, there are federal, state, and local laws around what information you can use to make a housing decision, and these laws are progressing very quickly. Just this year, in 2017, Seattle has enacted 3 new ordinances, and there's going to be a 4th and a 5th one coming up before the end of the year.
Wow. Tip number 4. More often than not, I find professional management companies and landlords using a multiplier of rent or multiplier of income, really, to determine whether or not they'd qualify. We like to use a debt-to-income ratio.
Okay.
Can you walk us through sort of how we come up with a debt-to-income ratio?
Sure. In order to have all of the debt, you need to have a credit report.
Right.
And that credit report is going to outline what their revolving credit payments are and also what their debt service is. So then you can also verify what their income is. And most credit reports are going to have what's called a dashboard, and it's going to lay all that out very simply for you, and it's going to give you a final answer.
Yeah, I know when you provide us our full screening report, it's the full credit report. I can go through all of their trade lines, see if they're satisfactory or delinquent, coupled with their minimum monthly payments. And I add that along with the rent, divided into the income to get that debt-to-income ratio, which here in-house we want to see less than 45% of their income. So tip number 5, the last tip we have is don't rent to tenants that haven't seen the property. So here at Miller Lane, we like to make sure the tenant sees the property up front. The reason being is there's some laws here, I think, in City of Seattle and spreading outwards called the first in line. Can you tell us a little bit about those laws?
Yeah, so when you're screening a tenant, it's the first tenant that applies is the first and that you have to screen. And if that tenant meets your minimum criteria, then you're required to make the offer to them.
Right, so if we don't have the law where we require them, or the rule to require them to see the property, they could have been first in line, which then requires us to move them through the application process. And it could be 3, 4, 5 business days later, they see the property and then back out. We've lost precious time on market. So it's important, don't allow a tenant to rent your property sight unseen. Well, today we've offered you 5 tenant screening tips to help you find the best resident for your rental property. I'm Ian Joseph with Miller Lane Property Management. This is Jim Henderson with Landlord Solutions. Should you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.